Welcome to chair yoga. You'll need a chair for chair yoga. So hopefully you've got one handy, and then that's pretty much all you need. This is my dining room chair. So if you have a folding chair, you have a chair. If it has arms, it's a little trickier, but you can make it work. So for me, in order to get my feet all the way onto the floor, I have to scoot a little bit forward on the chair. And so once I've done that and my feet are resting, I just put the ankle, just directly below the knee, about the same distance apart as the knees are comfortably able to go. And then rest your palms on your thighs, or you can rest the backs of your hands on your thighs so that it feels a little bit more, maybe that feels a little bit more enlivening or awakening. This for me is nice. It's kind of a calming mudra. Palms are resting on the thighs. We've got the spine nice and tall. Then take a few deep breaths. It's possible that you've already been working for a few hours today, and so this is your little break in the middle of the day to create some space for yourself to reconnect to your body, reconnect to your breath, let your mind empty a little bit. One of my favorite things about lunchtime yoga is just having a chance to just put everything down for a little bit and come back to it refreshed later. So nice deep breaths, kind of try to fill up the whole body. And let the breath fall out nice and easy. And we're going to do two more. I've got my eyes closed, but you can have your eyes open if that's better. And so again, I'm kind of come back to this fact that just a few moments of breathing immediately calms my nervous system down. So I've been having some internet connectivity issues today, and so it's a little frustrating. But all it takes is just sit down, breathe for a few moments, and I feel my whole nervous system calmed. So we're going to drop the chin forward and roll the head up and over one shoulder until I feel that stretch right there through that muscle that connects my jaw to my collarbone and my sternum. And then I'm going to come back to the center and I'm going to go up and over. Now, some people like to go all the way back so the head hangs backwards. That's fine too. I like to go just to the point where I feel that stretch and pause with it. And depending on how you slept on your neck or how much time you've spent on the computer recently, your neck could be more stiff or less, and you're feeling out, feel the whole range of motion coming around. And the whole range of motion coming around. All right, so I'm going to do one more circle or, side to side. Just giving each side one more chance to kind of lengthen. And I can feel how that wants to lift my collarbone, so I'm relaxing the shoulder. When I get back to the middle, I'm going to go ahead and just stack the vertebrae in the neck up. And now keeping the chin level, I'm going to just turn the head as far around as it'll turn. And then same thing, coming back to the middle gently and then turning the head as far around as it'll turn on the other side. Not allowing myself to turn the torso, just the neck. I'll do that 2 more times over each side. So we're just feeling the rotation in the neck and how there might be some muscle tissue that's holding that back. And giving that muscle tissue a chance to release. Okay, so after you come back from the opposite side, so you've done both sides 3 times, we're going to hang the arms and work the shoulders. So we're going to go forward, around, and back. And here, try to draw the shoulder blades together quite firmly. Push the shoulder blades forward. Pull them up, pull them back, draw them down. So we're actively using all the muscles in the upper back and in the shoulders to try to move the arm bones around. We're going to do that one more time going that way. And then switch the direction. So then you're going to pull the shoulders towards the back first and then roll them towards the front. Pull them towards the back, roll them towards the front. Logically, it doesn't make sense to me that this would feel different, but it really does. Like I'm just using the same muscles to move my arm bones around, but it worked. It really does feel different. Okay, so once you get around and back into kind of a neutral position, we're going to take one arm and give it a little shake out. And then you're going to move that arm through a range of motion. Now, it could be a big circle, or if circles are tough for you, you might have an injury that causes the top of the shoulder not to allow the arm to lift. So it could just be an arc that lets you go as high or as big as the range of motion allows. It's okay if the torso moves with the arm bone at this point, but see if you can mostly figure out what the arm range of motion is. All right, and then we're going to take that a little smaller. And again, it could be a circle or it could be a movement forward and back, go the other direction after a bit. And then we're going to try to target just this upper shoulder. So we're going to hold the arm out long and do a very tight little circle with the whole arm bone. So I could be doing this with my hand. I don't want to do that. I want to do it with the whole arm bone. And go the other direction. It's going to really warm up that top of that shoulder. I like it. All right, shake it up. Now here's where we test things, right? Shake the shoulder part too a little. And then pause for a moment and hang both your arms. And immediately what I feel just from having explored the range of motion of my arm is that this shoulder feels lower. It feels like there's a little bit more length from my collarbone tip to my shoulder or to my armpit than on this side. This side, I would swear to you, my shoulder is almost next to my ear. And on this side, it feels like I've got quite a large expanse. If I were to look at myself in the mirror, it probably wouldn't be that different. But it's the sensation of having released the tension from those muscles. So we're going to do the other arm. So give it a little shake out, right? And then you're going to find your range of motion, whether that's a big circular range of motion, an oval, or just kind of an arc. All of it works, and do some in both directions. So you're working with the whole range of motion that your arm has. Mostly trying to isolate that to the range of motion of the arm bone within those joints. Okay, so then we're going to do a smaller circle, something that's kind of more in a medium. Again, it doesn't have to be a circle. It could be anything. It could even be a figure eight. Just something that kind of works a little inside the edges of range of motion. And then we're going to reach that arm out and we're going to really concentrate on moving the upper arm bone right there in that socket. The rest of the arms along for the ride, as tight a circle as this makes sense. And then switch the direction, go the other way. Ooh, I like that. It's intense sometimes. Okay, so then shake it out. Ooh, and then we're going to hang the arms and just experience. So now I have what feels like pretty much an even circumstance. My arms and my shoulders and my chest all feels kind of evenly lengthened out. Okay. So now we're going to do some movement in the spine. This is called flexion, and I've rounded the back like a cat on Halloween maybe. And then I'm going to move the body the other way. So the pelvis is going to tilt forward a little bit. I'm going to pull the chest back and lift the collarbones and the breastbone. And that creates extension. It's like a back bend, or maybe if I were on all fours, you could see like a swayed back. So we're going to do those two things. So the pelvis is going to tilt backwards for this one, and I'm going to tilt the hips forward for this one. And then the spine is responding because those things are connected, and I can add an emphasis with my upper body. So when I go into this shape, I can draw the shoulder blades out to the edges and hug them around. And when I go to this shape, I can pull the shoulder blades back to create more movement in the upper back. Okay, so let's do that about 4 more times. Back and forth. You can inhale and then exhale. Inhale and then exhale. Or you can do it the other way. You like whatever breath pattern feels more natural for you. Let's do one more. What's important is that you're breathing. And the breathing that's important for all yoga practice, chair yoga included, is a kind of a slow, deep, rhythmic breath, or it doesn't have to be slow per se, but it needs to be deep, rhythmic, and keep it nice and smooth so it doesn't get choppy. That might be a better word than slow. Okay, so now we've done our back. We're going to do a different movement in the back, which is rotation. So we're going to turn the rib cage back and forth. The arms are along for the ride. So sometimes there's a tendency, if we don't have a lot of movement here, to just swing the arms around. See if you can move your rib cage as much as you can. So even if your rib cage doesn't move much, try to move from the center portion of your body. The arms are along for the ride because they happen to be attached. Yay. It would be worse if they were not attached. Can you imagine having to snap your arms on every day? That would be weird. Okay. All right, so we're going to stop on one side. So whatever side you are on now, stop there. Press down into your sit bones and grow a little taller. And then you can see if there's a tiny bit more room to rotate. There may or may not be. Now put your hands down wherever they land. If they happen to land on the outside of that knee, or you can reach around and grab the back of your chair, that's fine. Don't overdo the twist, just enough that you feel the body kind of rotating one bone at a time, one on top of the other, around as far as it's comfortable to go. I find sometimes this makes my shoulder blades want to come forward, so one of the interesting things to try to do is to relax the shoulders in a twist. Can I keep them more on my back? This creates a little bit of movement or freedom in the muscles that live in my upper back. And when you're stuck in a chair working all day, sometimes the upper back is part of the part pays the price. Okay, so we're going to undo the twist and we're going to pause for a moment, just kind of jiggle that upper back area, move the shoulder blades forward and back. And then you can also do kind of start back into those little washing machine moves until the back feels pretty loose again and mostly free to move in both directions pretty easily. And then we're going to choose the opposite twist, okay? So once I'm turning in that direction, I'm turning from the waist, you're going to press down into the sit bones, get a little taller through the breastbone and the collarbones, and then pause, and you might be able to twist a little bit more. You might be able to grab the back of the chair or even put your hand around your knee. If not, you just put your arms down. Keep sitting up tall, but also pushing down into the little bones on the bottom of your bum. And keep breathing. And again, my shoulders might have a tendency to come up. Can you keep the shoulders more or less on the back so that we're creating more stretch and space right here in the front of the chest without being overly aggressive? Last breath there. Okay, so with the exhale, we're going to just unwind that whole thing. Head, neck, upper back, lower back. Okay, so then a little bit of movement back and forth with the ribs, a little bit of movement back and forth with the ribs until it feels like it's kind of relaxed again. All right, so we've done several movements of the spine. We've done flexion, we've done extension, we've done a rotation in each direction. We have one more move to do to create all the movements that our spine wants to do every day. The spine moves in 6 different ways, and if we keep moving our back in all the different ways, it helps with wear and tear, it helps with disc health, and it just makes you feel good, y'all. All the muscles stretch and get blood flow and oxygen and all that good stuff. All right, so I've taken my legs out into kind of a V because this is easier for the side stretching. So this is the last shape. It's called side flexion. And when you bend over this way, again, if you have some shoulder injuries and your arm will not come up over your head, don't worry about it. We're interested in the spine. The arm can come as high as it wants to. Even if as high as it wants to is out here, you can do that. You can also try wrapping your arm behind your back, and sometimes that feels really nice through the side of the neck. All right, before we get there though, we're going to come back up and we're going to do the opposite side. Okay, we're going to go back and forth about 3 more times. So I'm going to go over. Again, you might not choose to use the arm. And then I'm going to do the other side over. And maybe you're keeping your arm down here and you're just moving the spine. Okay, last one. Okay, so now we're going to pause here. Now, there's a couple of different ways for me to work with this pose. If I turn a little bit down, so I'm actually taking my shoulder towards the center here, that creates more stretch in my back. If I roll my shoulder backwards, taking my shoulder towards my back side of my body, that creates more length in the front. And sometimes I like both. So I might do a breath here, and I might do a breath here. Okay, and it's really subtle. It's not a big movement necessarily, but it does kind of, it enlivens all these muscles that live right here in the hip, on the front and on the back. And between the hip and the ribs. So the obliques, the muscles in the back, and the outer hip. Oh, okay, we're coming all the way up. Oh. Sometimes I use all the science words. I don't know if everybody wants the science words. All right, now feel, before we do the other side, just feel. And so one of the things that's interesting to me about side bending is I can feel sort of a little bit more sensation. I feel lighter on this side of my body now that I've stretched that side. This side of my body is not bad. It just is different. Okay. So once you feel like your spine has sort of come back and it feels even, it doesn't feel like you're leaning that way anymore, we're going to go ahead and try this other side. So elbow to your thigh to start with, and then we're going to lift and lengthen, right? So I'm light on that elbow, still using it for support and balance, but lighter. And again, I can roll a little bit more towards the front to get, the back muscles stretching out. I can roll a little bit more towards the back to stretch these front belly muscles out a little bit more. Or I can stay really right in the middle. Maybe right in the middle is just right. When you do yoga practice, you're often trying to be like Goldilocks. Not too much, not too little, just right. Oh, so 2 more breaths. Maybe you don't have the arm over your ear. Last breath. Okay, so we're going to reach that arm out, come all the way up. All right, so the spine is still going to be slightly leaning in that direction because we've changed the fluid in the discs themselves. So a little bit of movement, especially in the spine area. Oh. Okay, so we've done all of the movements that the spine is able to do. So now we're going to do some movements for our hips. We're going to start with this kind of in and out movement. So I'm going to internally move my legs. That's called adduction. I'm going to abduct my legs. I'm going to go out to the side. Now I'm resting on my tiptoes here because that gives me a little more freedom of movement. If you're resting on your feet, that's fine too. So out and in, okay? Just out and in. And you can just go back and forth. And if you want to add a slight rotation, you can turn the knees in and turn the knees out as you move also. So you can add a tiny bit more motion to this. Okay, we're going to do 2 more. Now we're going to pause and drop one leg open and one leg in, and we're going to try to rotate that leg in as much as it will go. As soon as it starts to lift your hip, that's as far as you can go. So we're just seeing if we can rotate inward. Now, if you have an artificial hip, this is going to be a very challenging movement and it may not actually happen. Artificial hips are not designed to do all of the range of motion of a natural hip. Just heads up. Okay, so your leg might not fall in. Okay, so come back to the center. And we're going to take this one and we're going to rotate this one inward if we can, if the hip allows. Again, as soon as you feel it picking you up, you're past the edge. Now you're trying to push yourself in and your bones aren't going to let you. So you just turn the thigh in just enough that we're starting to feel some action right here where our front pocket might live. Okay, I'm going to take one more breath here. And then we're going to release that shape. Okay, now we're going to try to do some movement and some stretching for this area in the upper outer hip. So to do that, we're going to do a move called rock the baby. Now, if you can grab hold of your leg and hold onto the foot with one hand, you see how I flexed at the ankle? Flexing the ankle helps stabilize these 2 lower leg bones in the knee joint. And it will put a little bit less torque on the knee. But then I also need to use a hand on my big femur bone, the big thigh bone. And then you rock the baby back and forth like this. Now, if this rocking motion back and forth is impossible, maybe you can't hold on to your foot, you can do something similar by resting on the tiptoe and just moving the thigh bone back and forth, okay? It's not exactly the same. We're not going to get quite the same amount of sensation up here in the hip, but it is something. And something is better than nothing. All right, if you can pick your baby up higher, pick your baby up higher. Now, we're going to see if we can rest this shin bone on top of the other thigh. And it might be that it's better if you bring your knee closer to the edge. So when we bring the legs closer together, we're going to stretch out this area of the hip. And so we're trying to bring the leg toward the center. Now, if you're sitting upright and you feel quite a lot of stretch in this part of your hip right here at the upper part where the hip bone is, that's enough. You don't need more. If you don't feel anything there, lean into it. And you're going to, by bringing the area a little closer in, we're going to feel a little bit more sensation. You might feel it other places too. You might feel sensation on the top of this thigh, for example. That's from the compression, the pressure of holding one leg up. These outer muscles are quite deep and thick. You might be able to feel it in other places, maybe coming down the thigh. And so we're just pausing for about 3 more breaths. Now, if we can do it, we're going to back off a little bit, but we're going to keep the leg slightly across this thigh, and we're going to stick a finger in between each toe. Now, if your feet aren't bare, you can just wiggle the toes inside your shoes. Okay, so I've got bare feet, so I can stick a finger in between each toe. And what I'm doing here is I'm stretching out the space where between each of the big bones in my foot, right? So this little bones of my toes, the phalanges, are attached to these larger bones here, the metatarsals. And what I'm hoping to do is actually create a little bit of space, or to encourage a little space in those metatarsals. May or may not happen. And so while I'm here, I can do a little movement back and forth, or I can flex the foot because that feels better. Okay, so we're just going to take one more big breath, just kind of squeeze those fingers in. And then when you release the fingers, give the toes a little wiggle and see if it makes it feel like there's a little bit more freedom of movement in your foot. Now, we're going to keep going with the leg. So we're going to hold on to the knee if you can. Again, if you can't hold your knee, don't worry about it. Just put the leg down on the chair and work with your foot out in space. If you can hold the leg, it just creates a little bit more movement in other muscles. So we're going to turn the foot. And then go the other direction. So we've got some ankle movement. And then you're going to point and flex your foot. And then you're going to see if you can extend the leg, and then we're going to point the toes and come back down. See if you can extend that leg, point the toes, come back down. One more time, extend that leg. Maybe you can pick it up a little higher. Some people can even hold on to their big toe. So we're going to spread the toes apart. Maybe a little more. Hello, hamstrings. And then bend your knee. And we're going to let that whole leg just kind of get a little shake and shimmy. Okay, so here's where we do the test, right? We did the test with our arms. Now we're going to do a test with our legs. Feel the leg you just did and the leg you haven't done yet. And if the leg you just did feels better, lighter, nicer, whatever that may be, good. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. If there's any tenderness, especially in your knee joint or in your hip joint, you're going to be a little more conservative. You're not going to do quite as big a range of motion. And you may even choose, rather than bring the foot, for example, up on top of the thigh, you might keep the leg crossing just at the shin bone. Okay, so to start this off on this side, we're going to take this leg and we're just going to rotate it in, and we're going to hold here. So we're just going to pause with this leg hugging or turning inward. And again, as soon as my hip comes off, I want to stop. And I'm just feeling this area right in here, maybe. And you might feel some stretchy areas other places. Okay, so then we're going to pick this leg up, or just leave it down here, but we're going to move it back and forth in the socket. So I want the big bone of my hip or my thigh to move in the hip. Okay, so I'm not turning my butt, I'm just moving my leg. Okay, hug it up nice and high, and maybe it'll go across your thigh, or maybe the knee comes across, or maybe it's down here across the shin. Okay, feel. Sit up tall and feel. Do you feel something happening somewhere in this outer hip? If the answer to that question is yes, yes I do. Don't go more. Stay right there. You're there. That's the spot. If you don't feel things, then you come forward with your torso. Don't round or hunch the back. You're bringing the whole thing, the top of the pelvis and all, forward a bit. And again, you might not need this part because you already had that part going on. And we're trying to feel like, do I feel a sense of stretch in this area of my hip that seems right and appropriate and good? Or am I starting to feel tense, like I'm trying to protect myself? Those are good reasons to stop doing this. Okay, so we're gonna back off a little bit and we'll get to the toes. So we're gonna take a little moment and see, can I get a finger in between each toe? Try to release a little pressure out of my poor little foot bones. They do such a good job. Look at these tiny little things. I mean, you know, I've got pretty big feet, but still pretty tiny in comparison to all of this that they're holding up all the time. So that's, you know, our poor little dogs need our help. Our little feet. So just kind of wiggling your fingers into place. You can add a little movement. Do 2 more breaths. I like to try to stretch them out a little bit too by kind of separating the fingers. Okay, so let go of your foot, wiggle your toes a little, and then we're going to hold on to the back of this thigh, or maybe we won't, it depends on you, and then rotate your foot. Oh, yes, and then go the other direction. Okay, and then you're going to point and flex like that. All right. Oh. All right, so then we're going to try to straighten that leg out. Oh, this is where it gets interesting. Maybe those hamstrings get a little bigger stretch. Hamstrings are the muscles on the back of your thigh. All right, flex your foot, spread out your toes one more time, a little wider, and then we're gonna let that come down. Give it a jiggle. Oh, and then pause and see, how does it all feel? Hopefully it feels pretty good. All right, yogis, so we're gonna do one more move in the hips, and it's kind of a warrior 2 shape. To do it, we're gonna turn sideways, and then I'm gonna back up so that the back of my knee is right against the edge of my chair. And depending on the size of your chair, like you may wind up on your tiptoes or you may wind up on your foot. And then I'm gonna take this leg and I'm just gonna extend it out. So I've got an angle here. I don't know what the angle is gonna be yet. So that might be enough. This leg goes straight out in front of you. This leg is turned to your side. It's possible that you'll be able to bring this leg around to the side. So this more closely resembles the warrior 2 pose when you're standing up. You can rotate the toes out or turn the toes in. Hopefully you can see a little bit of that. Okay, so now I'm gonna try to, almost like I'm trying to pick myself up off this chair. I'm gonna use the muscles in my abs by pulling in through the sides of my waist. I'm gonna use my thigh muscles by lifting up a little bit. And then I'm gonna bring my arms out so that I've got warrior 2 arms. Right on. Let the arms follow your shoulders. We're going to come back to a reverse warrior. Because of the hip position on the chair, we may not get very far. And then we're going to come over into a side angle. This is my favorite shape. All right, we're coming back today anyway, but often. Stretch out nice and long. Okay, coming back. Stretch out a little bit under there, whatever works best for you, and then go forward. And it might help to turn your heart a little more on the diagonal with your knee. That might give you a better range of motion. And then we're going to put the elbow on the thigh for a second. We're going to push down into the feet, lift through the belly, and lengthen into side angle pose and hold it steady. Push your feet into the floor and try to lift yourself like you're lifting off the chair. So we're using all the muscles in the core, the muscles in the legs. Even if you're like me and your legs are short and you're pushing your toes into the floor, it still works. Last big breath here. And then we're going to come on back. All right, we're going to bring this leg forward. We're going to bring this leg forward. We're going to come around and get a little jiggle. And maybe a little drink of water. Keep hydrated, y'all. Okay, so we're going to turn this way. And we're going to do the other side. Okay, so once again, my knee is as close as I can get it to the edge of the chair. I start by extending this leg out straight and seeing how that feels. And if this feels like that's about as far as my hip wants to go, I stay there. I can try creeping the leg back to find the just right spot. And for me, it feels like that diagonal is just about right. And if I turn my toes in, it's better. If I turn my toes out, it feels a little crummy in my joint. So for me, toes in is going to be the right place. For you, it might be opposite, okay? Press down into the legs, lift up, and then bring the arms into the warrior two, and they may not line up with the edges of the chair. Line them up with your own body. We're going to come back for reverse and over for side angle. Oh, so we're working the obliques, which are these muscles on the side waist, and we're working the deeper abdominals by drawing in and lengthening. So we're keeping our core strong, y'all. I'm going to do a little bit more with our core in a moment. So 2 more, 1. Oh, and 1 more back. And then I'm going to come here. I'm going to start with my elbow, my thigh, but I'm going to really lift, okay? So I'm hugging the sides of my waist in like I'm wearing a tight corset. I'm lifting a little bit through my thighs, pushing the feet into the floor, extending out. This elbow's here for balance and support, but I'm not leaning on it because the leaning on it isn't helping me in a lot of different ways. But all this action that I'm creating in my body helps keep me strong. And it keeps my spine stable, and that's really important. Okay, so 1 more big breath. Then we'll come on up, and we're going to bring this leg back to the front, bend the knee, bring this leg back around. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is downward facing dog, standing up, and we're going to do a little standing balance work. And we have the chair for support. Okay, so we're going to start with downward dog. So standing up, I'm going to come over to the side of my chair, and I'm going to put my hands down on the bottom of the chair, and then I'm going to walk my hips back. I might move the chair this way a little bit. Walk my hips back until I can get nice and long. So I've got a downward dog shape. It's just a little bit different. So what I like about the downward dog done this way is that it allows me, as I pull my hips back, to really feel the stretch and the length in my shoulder and my upper back. And especially if I've been on the computer all morning, oh God, does that feel good. So you can even bend your knees to take the hamstrings out of this and pull a little stretch into that upper back. And I'm wobbling side to side because that feels amazing. Okay, and then you want more hamstrings, you just straighten those legs back out. Okay, do 1 more breath like that. Okay, yogis, hug in your belly button, shift your weight forward. We're going to do kind of like a little plank over our chair, and then we're going to pull it back to down dog. I'm going to move my hands to a more supported part of the chair, right there where the wood is. Feeling a little vulnerable. Shift forward and shift back. And I'm actually coming up onto my tiptoes a little bit as I shift forward. So I'm shifting forward, hug the abs in, bring the hips a little forward. You can press your heels back now. Lift up onto the tiptoes, press them back. If your back is starting to suffer, you're done here. Go back to down dog. And then we're going to take it back to down dog 1 more time all together. Okay, so then let go of the chair. See if you can hang upside down. Put your hands on your thighs. Lift and bring your heart forward. Hug in through your abs. Come all the way up. And give yourself a nice big stretch. Okay, so I'm holding the chair. And I'm going to pick up 1 leg, and I'm going to reach it out to the side. I'm going to bring it across and bring it up. Okay? Bring it across, bring it up, bring it across, bring it up. Now I'm going to try to balance right here as light as I can. You can bend the standing leg knee to help that knee stay safe. You can let go of the chair and see how your balance goes, and if you fall, catch with your feet. Always catch with your feet when you're balancing. When you're walking around in life and you lose your balance, there's not going to be a chair there for you to grab. Teach your body how to catch with your feet. So let's do that 1 more time. So I'm going to pick this leg up, maybe bend that knee, lift, try to let go. And then if you fall, you catch with your foot. Okay, let's do the other side. So I'm going to move my chair where I am and create a little space for myself over here. You could go to the other side of your chair if you don't have to worry about your viewpoint. Okay, so now I'm going to put my hand on the top of the chair, or maybe the bottom, wherever your chair has a space. I'm going to lift up through my core, really hug, lift this leg up. I'm going to bring it across and take it back out. Bring it across. Can you feel how that's making your hip work? Bring it out, bring it across, bring it out. And now I'm going to try to hold without even holding onto the chair. If I need to catch myself, rather than grab the chair, which is, tempting, instead, catch yourself with your foot, okay? 1 more time, we're going to try to do that balance. Lift, and then catch with your foot. Good job, yogis. Balance is tricky, and for a lot of us, we lose balance as we age, and so making yourself do some balance challenges every day is good for you. It's like broccoli. All right, so pause for a moment. We're going to end class just by coming back to where we started. Bring your hands to your thighs. Take a deep breath, let go with an ah. We're going to do that twice more. Inhale. Exhale through the mouth. Ah. One more time, deep sigh. Ah. Now, sighing where we actually use the vocal cords helps us relax. It stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, predominantly the vagus nerve that runs through the throat and other places. And so see if that can help you relax. Resting your palms in a comfortable place, can you let your shoulders once again find a way to just let go away from your ears? Can you let your thighs get heavy in the chair and your back gracefully lift out of the basin of the pelvis or the hips? And 2 more big breaths. So you can stay as long as you like, or if you have a little bit of extra time on your lunch break, you could stretch out and lie down. Even lying down and putting your legs up on the chair is really lovely. It's a way to get a little upside downness, which helps your lymphatic system. All right, but in the meantime, if you've got to go back to work or go grab something to eat, I'm going to leave you with this. So take a nice big inhale, let go with a sigh. And namaste, yogis. Enjoy the rest of your day.